So hi everyone, this is Dan again, talking about Wake Timer for Kids. Basically, we could just call this a post-mortem. Um, so going through the development process, from UI to implementation, I think most of it went pretty well. The trickiest part of the development process was scaling the icons, getting those to work with the device, and then also trying to come up with the daydream functions. This is a new realm, and I had to do a lot of research in it, so I think that was kind of the biggest struggles there. The development process in that was a lot of research, but as far as building the UI, the wireframes, which was only two screens, it wasn't too difficult to come up with the XMLs. Fragments, worked on the fragments after that, which wasn't too terrible. And then it was basically just going through the code and going step by step, going through my milestone documents and just following those to a T and coming up with it. Last part of the development process was probably the trickiest part, which was that the Android Daydream. And it wasn't so much getting the Daydream service to show up in the device. The biggest struggle was trying to get the application to animate, if you will, through the Daydream service. So had to make some modifications to the receivers to talk to the service to refresh the screen when the time was different, which in my opinion is still a little clunky. It's not running like it should or like I hoped, and needs a little bit more tweaking. I think maybe if I didn't do it the way that I ended up doing it, maybe there's a simpler way, not real sure. But overall I'm pretty happy with it. Since it is something new, it was my first time going through the Android Daydream service. It is what it is. So accomplishments, as far as the app itself without the Daydream, I think it runs pretty good. Maybe working on some transitions when it goes through the soothing mode. That could be tweaked a little bit, make it a little bit more smoother, I guess. But for the most part, I'm pretty happy with the app and how it functions, and being able to change the time and it actually changing on that time is pretty neat. So I'm pretty happy about that, and I think the UI is pretty simple, pretty easy, two screens. Get the user to do what it needs to do immediately. It works, and I think it'll be beneficial too. Especially, I'm going to try it out with my kids and say, hey, this is when you can wake up, this is when you can't. So hopefully that is enlightening for them, and they'll stay in their bed so I can sleep a little bit longer. But I think it'll be good. So would I say this app's a success? I would say yes. I think it does what I hoped it would do. And again, the Daydream was a request by the client, Mr. Seeley, and I think I implemented most of the way. Like I said, I think there's a couple glitches with it, but for the most part, I've got it in there, and it's doing some of the things that I expected. What did I learn? A lot about the Android Daydream. I did a lot of reading, looked at a lot of tutorials, which weren't a lot out there, but I was able to pull what I needed to at least get it into the Daydream server, the Daydream settings, and just get it to display. Thinking about the other pieces of the application, changing some of the time was a little tricky to. What I was doing was changing the text depending on what time it was. So I had to put a couple if then, if else statements to check what time it was and what time it wasn't. So those were big things, and I learned a lot. So I'm pretty happy with the app. I think it was a good success. I don't know why I can't say that word, but overall, pretty neat.